Assalamu alaikum students. On behalf of Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering, we welcome you all to the final session covering combinational logic for the course Digital Logic Design. So let us first see the content in today's class. First of all, we will be having the review of the previous class, what we have learned in the previous class, what are the examples we have discussed in the previous class of the combinational logic design. Then we will discuss the examples for the encoder circuits, how encoder circuits works, and what are the functionality of the encoder circuits. After discussing the encoder circuits, we'll switch to the multiplexers and demultiplexers that are basically the data selectors and data distributors, and we'll see the examples that how some combinational logic functions can also be implemented by use of multiplexers only. At the end of the session, we will be discussing the tri-state gates. So as far as the reference readings and acknowledgements are concerned, we are still reading chapter number 4 from the book Digital Design with Introduction to Verilog HCL by M. Morris Mono. Uh, the content and the material in this lecture is taken from the slides that are originally designed by the Morris Mono itself. So to start with the review, what we have studied in the previous class, we've started our discussion by discussing the multiplied circuits. Multiplied circuits are the circuits that have the capability to multiply two binary numbers. We have seen the examples of the multiplied circuits, and then we'll switch to the magnitude comparator. Magnitude comparator is a comparator basically that has the capability to compare two numbers, and we've seen the examples for the comparison for the equality, greater than and less than. Then we'll switch to the decoder circuits, and we've seen the implementation of decoder circuits in which we've discussed 3 to 8 line decoder, and we've seen that how different sorts of Boolean function can also be implemented by use of decoders and some combinational gates only. As we've observed that each output of the decoder represents one min term, so it's easy to implement any Boolean function by use of decoders also. So to start with our today's session, let us first see what are the encoders. And the encoders are basically the reverse of the decoders, as far as its name implies, the circuit that has the ability to encode, to code some information. So it receives the input and convert it into the coded information. So basically, it performs the reverse of the decoder. So here in today's class, we're going to discuss the example of the octal to binary encoder. In the previous class, we've discussed binary to octal conversion. Now we're going to see how an octal digit is being encoded into a 3-bit binary code. So this particular example covers that concept. So in that particular case, we have got the encoder that has the dedicated D0, D1, D2 till D7 input lines, and one each input line represents one octal digit. For example, D0 or D0 represents octal digit 0, D1 represents octal digit 1, and similarly D7 represents the octal digit 7. So at any time instant, only a single input line is enabled, and according to that input line, the circuit is going to sense those input lines, and according to that input line, it's going to convert into the octal code. So this truth table represents all the possible combinations of inputs and the respective outputs. The last combination is not shown in the truth table, in which D7 is high and the octal code should be 111. So this is the logic diagram for the encoder circuit. So similarly, we have followed the mechanism which we've used to follow to implement any Boolean function. Basically, we're gonna extract for the x, y, and z. We're gonna extract the Boolean functions in terms of sum of min terms, and we're gonna use those concepts to implement that. So the first output is basically the x output. This represents x, this represents y, and this represents z. So these are the 3-bit of octal code. So whatsoever the line from the input is high, according to that the octal code is generated. So in the previous example, we have seen that the basic condition for the operation of those sort of circuits is that at any time instant, a single line should be high. But what if the case is that multiple lines get high? Then what could be the priority of the code that should be generated? So the previous circuit does not have that sort of capability to detect multiple lines simultaneously, and to whom which line should be prioritized and to whom the priority is given. So let us discuss the example of the priority encoder, in which we're going to set the priority of the input lines. if multiple lengths get high at the same time instant, then the output code for which line should be generated. So if you see the truth table of this priority encoder, we've got four dedicated input lines: D0, D1, D2, and D3, and the output lines are X, Y, and one additional output line V in order to represent the code is valid or not. So these sort of encoders basically resolves any sort of ambiguity of illegal inputs. Illegal inputs means that multiple inputs get high at the same time. So only one of the input is encoded. So which input should be encoded, that is dependent upon the priority of the inputs. So according to this table, D3 has the highest priority, D3 has the highest priority, and D0 has the lowest priority, and X represents those conditions that can be 0, that can be 1. So V is the valid indicator. Whenever the valid code is generated, the value of V is high. So if you see the truth table here, let us see the combination here. For example, these combinations, whatsoever the status of D0, D1, and D2 is, if D3 is high, then the output code should be double 1, and V should be high. So if you see the implementation process, first of all, we'll see the mapping process that has been generated for the particular scenario, for the particular outputs, for the X and Y, and for the V as well. So if you see the scenario, basically we placed all the min terms in the map. That is basically a 4-variable map, and we use those concepts of simplification, and we've got these dedicated terms when we simplify for the term X and Y. So these are the terms for the X, and this is the term for the Y for the implementation. If we see in the map for the X, we've got two distinct pairs of 8 cells each, and for the Y also we've got two distinct pairs. One is of the 8 cells, and one is of containing the 4 cells, and we got simplification terms from those map, and we have implemented these expressions, these simplified expressions in this logic diagram. So according to this logic diagram, whatsoever the combination of D1, D2, and D3 and D0 is, depending upon the priority which we have set, the output code is generated, and this V basically represents either we have a valid code or not. If the value of V is 0, then we have an invalid code, and if the value of V is 1, then we are receiving a valid code. So I hope so the concept of encoders is clear now. Encoders basically are those circuits or those digital logic design that basically convert any sort of information into the coded sequence. So whatsoever the coded sequence functionality is, according to that functionality, that encoder encodes the information. So let us see the example of multiplexers. Multiplexers are also the combinational circuits. So first of all, let us see what the multiplexers are, and how these sort of circuits are going to function. So multiplexers are basically also known to be the data selectors. So sometimes it is required to select from several options. You have to select a single option. So we have to require some sort of selection criteria, which is required to select a single option from several options. So depending upon that selection criteria, that particular selection is been mapped to the output. So basically, multiplexers are the data selectors that are used to select binary information from one of the many input lines and direct it to the single output line. So you can say that we have different users on the input, and we have a single channel accommodating all the users. So at any time instant, only one user can operate that single channel. So what we have to do is we have to define some selection criteria. According to that selection criteria, that users are going to utilize that channel. So for the multiplexers, we've got 2 raised power n input lines, and for that sort of input lines, we've got n selection lines and 1 output line. So the multiplexers are being labeled as, for example, 2 to 1 line multiplexer. The output line is 1 basically. So at any time instant, we're gonna see that what the selection criteria is, and according to that selection criteria, the inputs are being mapped to the output. As far as the symbolic representation of the multiplexers are concerned, the multiplexers in the digital circuits are represented by this representation. So it's a 2 cross 1 multiplexer or 2 to 1 NAND multiplexer, where I naught, this I naught and I1 are the users or the inputs. This S represents the selection criteria and Y represents the output. If S is equal to 0, then Y equals to I naught, whatsoever the value of I naught is, and if S is equal to 1, then Y equals to I1. Another symbolic representation which you're gonna see in your coming courses for the multiplexer is, for example, in a computer architecture course, you're gonna see this sort of representation for the multiplexer. It's an oval type shape of the symbol. We've got the input lines, for example, I naught and I1. This is I naught, this is I1. This is the selection criteria that has been represented in that oval shape. This is the select line, that is S, and this is the output, that is Y. A slight different symbol for some other digital logic designs can confuse you with multiplexers, but they have different functionality. For example, symbol of this symbol, it somehow resembles to the multiplexer symbol, but this is not a multiplexer. This is basically the symbolic representation for the addition operation, or the ALU is also being represented in that sort of representation. So don't confuse this symbol with this symbol. This symbol with the plain straight line represents the multiplexer, and with a cut basically represents some arithmetic operation or the addition operation. As far as the logic diagram is concerned, this is the logic diagram. Two AND gates representing the number of users, basically, that are being connected with these two gates. And this select line is responsible for the selection of I naught and I1. And at any time instant, only one of the user from these two users are going to use the output line. So how this multiplexer will function, let us see an example in which we'll try run this logic diagram to see the functionality, that how the system will work. Let us assume that we've got the value of I naught equals to 0 and I1 equals to 1, and we've got the select line that is equal to 1. So if we see that for this gate, this line is 1, that is been inverted with this NOT gate, and here we got 0. So this AND gate produces 0. From this AND gate, whatsoever the value of I1 is, that has been forwarded. So in our particular case, I1 is 1. I1 is forwarded, and this OR gate basically going to select the I1 value from these two values. So Y is basically equals to I1, and in our particular case, I1 is said to be 1. So I hope so the functionality is a bit clear with this explanation. So let us move to another example in which we've got the 4 dedicated channels at the input. So we've got 4 users that are going to use the shared medium or the single medium. So we've got 4 users, I naught, I1, I2 and I3, and we've got a single output line, that is Y. So if we've got 4 number of users, so how many select lines are required, that is important. So if you consider the example, a simple example, that let us assume that uh, in your building, in your university building, let's take the example of the Qaeda-Azam block. We have got 2 lecture halls. So if we have to label those lecture halls with binary data, that we can say that one lecture hall is being labeled as 0 and another lecture hall can be labeled as 1. So we can label both lecture halls with a single bit. But what if case that the building has got 4 dedicated lecture halls? So the single bit is sufficient? No, I don't think so. The single bit is sufficient. Now we have to take one additional bit. So the first lecture hall should be labeled as 00, the other should be 01, the third would be 10, and fourth would be 11. What if we've got 8 lecture halls? So the number of select lines are basically associated with the number of users. As many number of users, the more number of select lines are required. That is dependent upon 2 raised to power n notation, where n are the number of select lines and 2 raised to power n represents the number of users. So in this particular case, so the value 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, and 1, 1, these are the select lines, 2 select lines that are being labeled as x0 and x1 that are responsible for the selection process. So if S0 and S1 are 0, 0, then I0 Y is basically equivalent to I0 equals to I0. If X0 and X1 are equal to 0, 1, then in that particular case, whatsoever the value of I1 is, that should be routed to the output, that should be given to the output, that is equal to 1. So, and so on and so forth. So if you see the particular examples as far as the programming is concerned, so in different programming platforms, if you see that different sorts of conditional structures can be used to implement different sorts of conditions. For example, we can implement a multiplexer by using the if structure or the case structure in any sort of programming platform. So let us see the algorithm or the pseudocode that can be used to implement a 4 to 1 9 multiplexer. So we can say that if, for example, I'm using the if structure, I can say that if x0 x1, I'm collectively labeling these two lines as SEL. So if SEL is equal to 0 0, then we can say that Y should be equal to I0. Else if SEL for the selection criteria equals to 0 1, then Y should be equal to I1 and so on and so forth. As far as the hardware descriptive languages are concerned, for example, in this course you will be studying Verilog HDL or VHDL, so whatever the platform you are selecting is. So in Verilog HDL, we can implement a multiplexer by using, in behavioral modeling, we can use the if structure or we can use the case structure, or we can also implement that at the gate level modeling as well, which we have to use 4 gate primitives for the AND gate, 1 gate primitive for the OR gate, and uh, 2 inverters, and some collection of wires are required to interconnect those gates with each other. So this diagram basically represents a 4 cross 1 multiplexer, and depending upon that particular selection criteria which has been mentioned inside this box, the output the inputs are being mapped to the output. So let us see another example. In the particular cases, we have seen that the users are sending the data of a single bits each. What if the users are sending the data for the multiple bits? So in this particular example, in this particular case, in this particular scenario, we've got two users A and B of 4 bits each, and how these two users are going to utilize the output line. So this sort of multiplexer has this particular definition. So as far as the symbolic representation is concerned, we've got user A that is of 4 bits. Then we've got user B that is also of 4 bits. Then we've got two dedicated select lines. Uh, Sorry, it's not two dedicated select lines, one single select line, because we've got a single select line that is required to select between two. If the number of users are 4, then we are going to use the two dedicated select line. But in this particular case, in this example, since we've got two users of 4 bit each, the size of these users or the data size of these users is not dependent upon, or you can say that the number of select lines are not dependent upon the size of each user, but it is dependent upon the number of users. So we've got two users here. So we have required a single select line that has been labeled as S, and we've got one additional line that is the enable line. In order to enable or disable the operation. So that enable is basically the active low enable. If you see that truth table that has been shown here, so if the value of E equals to 1, so all the outputs, whatsoever the status of select line is, all the output should be labeled to 0. So it's just like a refresh, or you can say that the default state is 0. So whenever the select line, the enable line is set to 0, whenever this enable line is set to 0, if you see this logic diagram, you can clearly observe from the logic diagram as well, whenever we set this enable to 0, it's been inverted to 1, and all these gates are now enabled. Now these inputs can be mapped to the output depending upon this select line. So if the value of select line equals to 0 in this particular case, this has been inverted to 1, so this, and then again inverted to 0. So this pair of AND gates receive 1 at its input, one of its input, and these AND gates get 0 at its input. So whatsoever the status of these line, the output of these gates are 0, 0, 0, and 0. Now coming back to our block diagram, we have discussed that we've got two users A and B of 4 bits, one select line. For A equals to 0, for S is equal to 0, A is selected. For S equals to 1, B is selected. We've got the output line, that is Y, that is also of 4 bits each. So here now in this case, when S is 0, these set of gates are enabled. Now we'll get here A3, A2, A1 and A0. Whatsoever the value of A2, A3, A1 and A0 is, that is being forwarded here. A3, A2, A1 and A0, whatsoever the status of these lines are that are being forwarded, A3, A2, A1 and A0. So one of the inputs of these four OR gates are A3, A2, A1, A0, and remaining inputs are 0, 0, 0, 0. So now the output is A3, A2, A1 and A0. These four outputs should be paired when select line is equal to 0. And if we make the select line to 1, then the value of B should be moved at the output. So these are the multiplexers. Till now we have discussed the basic functionality of multiplexers. We have seen some examples of the multiplexers. Another important functionality that can be achieved from the multiplexer is that we can implement any sort of Boolean function by use of the multiplexers only. Similarly, in the same way, we have implemented some Boolean functions with the use of decoders also. So multiplexers are basically, if you see the circuit orientation of the diagram, you can see that a multiplexer that can be shortly represented as MUX is basically a decoder plus an OR gate. So we can implement any Boolean function by use of 2 raised power n to 1 multiplexer. So basically 2 raised power n to 1 multiplexer can implement any Boolean function of n input variables where n are the number of inputs. So a better solution is that we have to implement any boolean function of n plus 1 input variables, where n are of these inputs basically are connected to the selection criteria of the multiplexer, and the remaining input which we have not connected with the selection criteria basically is is the logic on the inputs. So its logic should be implemented on the input lines of the multiplexer. So let us see some examples in which we're going to explain this concept, in which how we're going to implement a boolean function by use of multiplexer. So we're going to see two different examples in which the first example we're going to select, or we're going to implement a boolean function, and we're going to use the most significant bit as a logic bit which is being implemented on the users, and the remaining two bits are being mapped to the selection criteria or the select lines. And we're going to see what are the concepts, what are the techniques which we are going to use to implement that sort of function. And in the later example we're going to see that we're gonna use the least significant input, and we're gonna map that input or compare that input with the output, and with that process we're gonna implement any sort of boolean function by use of multiplexer. So we've got two different approaches. Whatsoever the approach you see is convenient for you, you see is easier for you, you can opt that. So let us see the first example in which we've got the boolean function that is being equivalent to f of a b c, that is in the term of sum of min terms. We've got 1 3 and 5 6. In these particular min terms, we've got the system response that is equal to 1. So if you see the truth table, basically the output variable is missing from the truth table. Let me draw that output variable here. That is basically in our case f. Let me rewrite it clearly so that you don't get confused. So this is f. So for the min term number 1, 3 and 5, 6, the output is 5. Min term number 1, min term number 3, min term number 5, and min term number 6. F is 1. For all the others, the output is 0. So this is the final form of the truth table, representing the inputs and the combination, all the combination of inputs and the outputs. So if we see for the first convention, let us first see what will be the dimensions of the multiplexer that is required to implement the Boolean function of three variables. As far as the implementation is concerned, we've discussed earlier that in that particular case, in the previous slide, we've discussed that some of the input should be mapped to the selection lines of the multiplexer, and a single input line, its logic should be implemented at the number of channels. So if we see that we've got three number of inputs, A, B, and C. So one input can be splitted for the number of users logic. So the remaining inputs are two. So we've got those two remaining inputs should be connected to the multiplexer select line. So from this requirement, we have seen that we can implement this function by use of a multiplexer that should have two select lines. So if a multiplexer should have two select lines, then what are the number of users that can be accommodated with that multiplexers? That are basically 4. So we can implement any three literal function by use of a 4 cross 1 multiplexer. That is the minimum requirement that can be used to implement any sort of Boolean function that is containing three literals. So here we've seen that we can implement this function by use of a multiplexer that is a 4 cross 1, in which we've got 4 channels, so the 4 users that are been labeled as I0, I1, I2 and I3, and 2 select line that are being labeled as S0 and S1. So the two inputs, the first method which we're going to discuss is that we're going to map the logic of the most significant input. In this particular case, A is being considered as the most significant input. Uh, the logic of that should be implemented by use of these 4 users, so the 4 inputs, and the remaining 2 lines should be connected with the selection lines of the multiplexer. So if you see the implementation table basically is a table that is used to implement any sort of Boolean function by use of multiplexers. We've got in columns 4 users or the 4 inputs, I0, I1, I2 and I3. If you see the table for the first 4 combinations, or for the first 4 min terms, the value of A is 0. So in a row, the first 4 entries in a first row represents A prime, in which we've got the value 0. So the minterms are 0, 1, 2 and 3. We just label those minterms with respect to those respected inputs. And for the second row, if you observe that, and if you observe the input A, for rest of the 4 combination the value of A is 1. So for the rest of the 4 combination we're going to use the literal A instead of A prime, and this is for the minterm number 4, 5th, 6th and 7th. So for the implementation table, first of all we're going to map our inputs in column wise, and we're going to map that particular input which is going to implement on the multiplexer in rows. So these 4 input lines basically represents uh, the users of the multiplexers, and this A prime and A, these row of this implementation table represents the logic that should be implemented on these uh, input lines. So the next step which we're going to do is we're going to see within a column that if we can have some shared minterms or not. The minterms encircled here in this implementation table, for example, this minterm number 1, minterm number 3, minterm number 5, minterm number 6 are the responses in which the output is 1. We can clearly see from this boolean function as well as from the truth table as well. So we're going to encircle those minterms that are producing 1 in the output. So we've got this particular response. The next step is, or the final step for the implementation is, we're going to observe those input lines simultaneously. Basically we're going to observe the column I0, then I1, then I2 and then I3 to see if there exists any minterm that is producing high at the output. So for the first column, if we see I0, that is with minterm number 0 and minterm number 4, the response of the system is basically 0 for these two minterms. So we've got the resultant logic that should be implemented at I0, that is equivalent to 0, which you can easily observe from this table as well. For the second user of the multiplexer, or the second input of the multiplexer, that is basically the I1, you can see that we've got two minterms appearing simultaneously here, encircled here. So if you've got two minterms encircled here at the same time, then the output is equivalent to 1, which we can see from this table as that from the Boolean algebra as well. If you remember or recall that Boolean algebra, that A plus A prime, that is equal to 1. A or A prime, or A plus A prime, that should be equal to, that is always equal to 1. So if in that particular case, if we have got two dedicated minterms that are encircled in the implementation table, then the response of the table is 1. For the second, for the I2 input of the multiplexer, if we see that uh, in these two particular rows and in this column, the sixth min term is encircled. That means that is the contributing min term for the output. So we've got the response A here. And for the last one, we observe that min term number 3 is active, that is producing 1 at the output. So we've got, and this basically min term number 3 is represents A prime literal at the output. So this is basically A prime that is being extracted from the port. So for the first channel, we're going to ground this channel. We're going to ground this channel to give logic 0 permanently. For the second one, that is I1, we're going to connect it to plus 5 volts. So whatever the logic, the standard you are implementing to represent logic 1. So I'm going to connect it with plus 5 volt for TTL standard. I2 is connected with A and I3 is connected with A prime. And B, F, C are basically the select lines. These are the 4 select lines. Depending upon the value of these select lines, the particular value is being mapped to the output. So this is the first case, first example, first methodology in which we have given the importance to the most significant input, and we implemented that logic, most significant input logic on the on the user's line, and the remaining lines, the remaining input lines are basically connected to the selection lines. So I hope so. This concept is clear right now. So let us see the procedure in detail, which we have discussed till now. First of all, the ordering sequence is important. So we have to assign the ordering sequence of the input variables. In this particular case, the leftmost variable A will be used for the input lines. That is the most significant case if you see A, B, and C in that root table, and the remaining n minus 1. So in our particular case, we've got two B and C lines. So that should be connected to the selection lines, that should be connected to the select lines. Let me see, yeah, here, that should be connected to the select lines with respect to their corresponding sequence. Then list all the minterms in two rows, a prime and a, circle all the minterms for the function, and determine the input line, the process which we have already performed for the previous example. Let us see another example, that is we are implementing the Boolean function of 4 literals. So we've got the total number of minterms that are equal to 16 from 0 till 15. So these are the minterms for which the circuit is producing high response. So we are using the same concept which we have utilized previously and implemented that by using 8 cross 1 multiplexer. Why we are using 8 cross, we are using 8 cross 1 multiplexer instead of 4 cross 1 or 16 cross 1. Basically, uh, if you see the previous convention, that uh, from the 4 input lines, one line is basically the line that is being implemented on the multiplexer's input line, and the remaining are the select line. So if one line logic is implemented on multiplexer input line, uh, the total number of select lines are basically 3. So from this requirement, we have seen that if a multiplexer is utilizing 3 select lines, then the dimension of the multiplexer should be 8 cross 1 multiplexer in order to accommodate this particular Boolean function. This is another example, or another way, another possible way to implement a Boolean function in which instead of mapping our most significant or the leftmost bit to the select lines, we're going to use the least significant bit here. So it's basically a tabular method which we can implement very easily by using the truth table also as well. So if you see that the response of the system is given here, the f is the output, that is f is basically a function of input a, b, and c, and this is the response. So in this particular case, what we have to do is we have to make the section of two entries. So if the table have got 8 entries, we've got 4 subsections, and each subsection basically represents the logic for implementation at the input lines of the multiplexer. So for that particular case, if you have to implement a Boolean function of 3 literals, here the same convention is being followed. One literal is implemented on the input side, and the remaining are basically the select lines. So what we will do is we will make the pair of same select lines here, as I have clearly mentioned that we are going to implement, or we are going to compare the least significant input with respect to the function, and that logic is being implemented on the multiplexer input lines. So for these two entries, A and B value is 0, 0. This is basically the selection criteria for this pair. The next is 0, 1. See here, 0, 1. This is the next select line. For these two entries, it's 1, 0. And for next two entries, it's 1, 1. So these are basically the select lines, and each pair represents the selection criteria for each select line. Now what we have to do is that we have to compare f within that particular selection pair with the least significant input, that in our case is c. So if we see for the first pair, the value of c is 0 and 1, and f is also 0 and 1, which I can clearly say that f is equal to c. If c is 0, f is 0. If c is 1, f is 1. Then I can clearly write that f is equal to c. For the next pair, if we see that if c is 0, f is 1, and for the other case if c is 1, f is 0, which means that f is totally inverse of the c. If the c is 1, c is low, f is high, and if c is high, f is low. So I can clearly say that f is basically c prime for that pair. Now coming for the third pair, if you see that if c is 0, f is 1. If c is 1, f is 1. That means f is permanently connected with 1 and change in c is not reflected at f. So we can clearly say that f in that particular case is equal to 1. And for the last case, if c is 0, f is 0. If c is 1, f is 1. So f is equal to 0. So f is permanently connected to 0. Whatsoever the value of c is, that is not affecting f. So if you see the logic diagram or the implementation diagram of this multiplexer, you can see that I0 is being connected with C, I1 is being connected with C prime, I2 is being connected with 1, that is basically plus 5 volts or according to the TTL standard, and I3, the last one, is connected to 0. So this is also a way to implement any sort of Boolean function by using multiplexer. So you have both options available. Either you can use the most significant input line for the logic implementation on the user's input on the multiplexer, or you can use the least significant input line for the logic implementation on the multiplexer's user line or the input lines. Now coming to the last topic, we are going to discuss the tri-state gates. Basically, tri-state gates are the three-state gates. As far as the conventional gates are concerned, the conventional gates have the definitive outputs. Either the output is 0 or the output is 1, depending upon the input. Whereas as the tri-state gate is concerned, tri-state gate has basically the three states. One is the normal state that can be the output can be 0 or the output can be 1, and the second state is the open state. So if the output is being connected to the open state, that or the open circuit, that is being considered as the high impedance state, in which the gate reacts as an open circuit and input and outputs are basically isolated from each other. So whatsoever the change of input is, that is not being reflected on the output, since the gate is reacting as the open circuit. So for the open circuit, the output is connected as the high impedance state, that is being labeled as the Z state. So till now we have studied the four definitive signal levels. Either the signal level of any Boolean variable can be 0, or can be 1, or can be x, that is undefined, or can be z. So if you see the simulations in some simulation softwares used for some particular hardware descriptive languages, so you can see that in your simulation these four types of definitive outputs can appear. Either it can be 0, either it can be 1, either it can be x, that is undefined, or either it's z, that is high impedance state. So three-state gates or the tri-state gates are the gates that has the three definitive states. One is the normal state, that in which circuit reacts as a normal gate, or the buffer, you can say that circuit reacts as a buffer. So whatever the input is, that is been back to the output. Or second case is the open circuit state or the high impedance state, in which the circuit reacts as an open circuit, in which the outputs are isolated from the inputs. So whatsoever the change of input is, that is not being reflected at the outputs of the system. So we can implement a multiplexer by use of the tri-state gate. Also, if you see the first example, that is 2 to 1 line multiplexer, we can implement by use of the tri-state gate. This is the symbolic representation of the tri-state gate. This is the input, this is the output, and this is the line that basically opens or closes the gate. You can say that it's the enable line, just like an enable line, in order to enable or disable the tri-state gate. So in this particular case, in this particular example, these gates are basically active high enable gates. That means that if the value of gate is equal to 1, then that the gate is enabled, otherwise the gate is disabled. So if I place a bubble here in the symbolic representation, let me see if I can get a pen. This is input, this is output, and this is enable. So if the gate is not enabled, the gate is basically in high impedance state, and if the gate is enabled, then the output is going to follow the input variables, whatsoever the value of input is, that has been represented at the output. So in this particular case, this gate is enabled at low 0. So that's why I placed a bubble. So in these particular diagrams, you can see that there is no bubble that is been placed on these select line, sorry, in these enable lines. So these gates are active high enabled rather than active low enabled. So if you see that a 2 cross 1 multiplexer logic here, let us assume that the value of A is 1 and the value of B is 0, and this select line that is basically being mapped, on these enable line is, let me place the value here 1. So this one is being inverted to 0, which means this gate is disabled. This gate acts as an open circuit, so A is not being moved to Y. Whereas if you see this gate, it gets the high enable here, and whatsoever the value of B is, that is being moved to the output. So in this particular case, Y equals to B, and that is equals to 0. So we can also implement those multiplexers by use of tri-state gates. Now the next example is a 4 cross 1 multiplexer implementation by using the tri-state gates and decoders. So if you see that the number of tri-state gates which we are using are 4, because each gate represents your single user. So we've got 4 users, I0, I1, I2 and I3. We've got 4 tri-state gates, and now we have to see the logic, because in a 4 user multiplexer that has 2 select lines, we need a mechanism that is going to convert those 2 select lines and convert or decode those 2 select lines into these 4 enable lines, depending upon the whatsoever the value of those select lines are. So let us try run this. If we use the example that if select lines are 0 0, and we assume that this decoder is also enabled, in that particular case output 0 gets high, other 3 outputs gets low, which means that this gate is disabled, this gate is disabled, and this gate is disabled or in high impedance state, and this gate is enabled, and the output Y0 is equivalent to or is equal to I0. Whatsoever the value of I0 is, that is being moved to the output. Similarly, if you place the value of the select lines 1 0, in that particular case, this line goes high, other lines goes low. This gate is enabled and the other gates are disabled. Now the output should be equivalent to I2. So with this mechanism we can implement a 4 cross 1 multiplexer by use of the tri-state gates and a decoder. So this is all for the today's class, student. I hope so you have understood the basic concepts of the multiplexers as well as the encoders and the tri-state gates, and you can implement after this session you can easily implement any Boolean function by use of the multiplexers also.